First tonight on News 3, remembering the victims of the 9/11 attacks 17 years later.
Hurricane Florence intensifies. Millions of people are now actively under hurricane watches and warnings.
And later, how the recent flooding and high water levels could impact future algae blooms in Madison and throughout Dane County.
This is News 3 at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Even 17 years later, 9/11 looms large in our memories.
Many of us can remember exactly where we were when we heard the news and remember watching the looping video of planes hitting the World Trade Center in New York. Amy Reed spoke with people in town today to see how they remember.
Yeah, even with time, this is not necessarily easy for people to talk about, so we had them write out what they could. I took this notebook blank to Capitol Square and let people fill it with their words, whatever they thought and whatever they felt about this tragic day.
The first thing that comes to my mind.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard.
I can't believe that it's been 17 years. So I wrote where I was.
I was walking into the main lobby of the airport. I happened to see something I never saw before. The lobby was filled with television sets.
I was at work. I had just gotten to work when it happened.
And there were more people crying in that room than I've ever seen before.
I don't know. It's very hard to come up with thoughts. Probably because who wants to think about it?
I just got goosebumps. I was 6 when it happened, so I don't remember a whole lot.
When I was in Tokyo, and when I was in high school, I learned about 9/11 in an English class.
I remember being in the first grade, and we were having a moment of silence, and I never really understood why that was happening.
Sadness, and 17 years ago, wondering how I'm going to explain it to my first grade daughter, and just being very scared. And still thinking about it even today.
Just seems like it was just yesterday in one way.
Even Japanese people have to remember the disaster.
I think we just sat her down and told her that, you know, unfortunately, bad things happen in the world, but we would keep her as safe as we could.
It seems like it's only talked about during the anniversary.
Every time I get on an airplane, I think about those people. 17 years later, every time I'm on an airplane.
It's part of our history now. It's something that everybody needs to be taught. I mean, that's history.
17 years ago still feels so fresh for a lot of us. And Charlotte, something we all kind of find interesting, now kids going off to college weren't alive during it. They're being taught about it in schools. But of course, many still believe it's something we need to remember.
Something we will definitely never forget. Amy Reed reporting tonight. Amy, thank you.
And right now in New York City, a tribute to the victims, the survivors, and their families. The World Trade Center monument illuminates in Lower Manhattan. Earlier today, a solemn ceremony at Ground Zero. These commemorations are now familiar rituals centered on reading the names of the dead, a bell ringing once for every victim, beginning at the exact moment the towers came down. More than 2,700 people were killed in the attacks at the World Trade Center. And in Arlington, Virginia, survivors and family members laid a wreath at the memorial there alongside Vice President Mike Pence. 184 people were killed at the Pentagon during the attack there. The Vice President told the families of the fallen that America still stands with them 17 years later. And in Pennsylvania, the President and First Lady attended a ceremony and visited the Flight 93 National Memorial there in Shanksville. The President spoke to the crowd along with Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf and the families of the victims. The names of the passengers and crew of Flight 93 were also read.
We have remembrance events here in Madison to tell you about. This morning, the Madison Fire and Police Departments co-hosted a Never Forget Blood Drive at the Madison Curling Club, which is now an annual event. Both departments honor guards, also joining forces by recognizing the valor of first responders and honoring the memory of the thousands of innocent lives lost that day. And in Coon Rapids, Minnesota, an unexpected guest. Look at this. A bald eagle made an unscripted visit to a September 11th tribute. The bird landed on top of a firefighter's aerial truck parked on a highway overpass. The trucks were holding an American flag and banner that read, we will never forget.
Another big story we are following. Hurricane warnings are now in effect as Hurricane Florence continues to churn toward the U.S. coast.
The most dire predictions about Florence moved closer to becoming a reality today. Now a Category 4 storm, it's on track to make a direct strike on the southeastern United States. More than 1.5 million people along the coast are under a mandatory evacuation order.
Even if you've ridden out storms before, this one is different. Don't bet your life on riding out a monster.
At the White House, FEMA officials briefed President Trump on the rapidly intensifying hurricane. Trump has declared a federal state of emergency for the region. Florence is expected to make landfall on Thursday evening or early Friday morning.
Volunteers from the Wisconsin American Red Cross are in the Carolinas tonight helping with preparations of the storm and soon with the recovery efforts to follow. 13 Wisconsin volunteers left Mitchell Airport in Milwaukee this morning. Those volunteers are setting up shelters for those moving inland. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti now with the latest on that storm and our first alert forecast. Gary?
Eric, everything seems to be on track with Hurricane Florence. It looks like it's going to make a direct hit into the Carolinas. Over the last 12 hours, it has changed little, a very distinct eye, and the Category 4 storm has maintained its strength. The latest information from the National Hurricane Center, maximum sustained winds 140 miles per hour, moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. It's just northeast of the Bahamas. Now, the forecast path in 24 hours brings it to near Category 5 strength as it moves over the Gulf Stream waters. After that, as it starts, the outer bands start to interact with the land, it might weaken a little bit to a Category 4 or maybe a strong Category 3 storm as it makes impact, most likely in the southern portion of North Carolina or far northern portions of South Carolina, and that would be somewhere around Friday evening. Then it's forecast to slow down and just kind of spin itself through the Carolinas, bringing heavy amounts of rain. Hurricane warnings are in effect from central South Carolina all the way up to the Virginia-North Carolina state line. Hurricane watches are in effect north and south of that area, and tropical storm watch is also in effect. Take a look at the precipitation potential through early next week. 10 to 25 inches of rain expected along the coastline from North Carolina southward to around Charleston, South Carolina, with about 5 to 10 inches as the storm moves inland, and lighter amounts farther to the north. Now around here, we're indirectly helped by Florence because high pressure is keeping our weather quiet. You can see very little in the way of cloud cover. Low temperatures this morning started out in the lower 50s. Current temperatures are in the upper 50s to lower 60s after seeing high temperatures in the upper 70s today. Dew point temperatures have climbed a little bit, but they're still in the low to mid 50s, so it won't be quite as cool by tomorrow morning. Temperatures dropping into the middle 50s. Tomorrow should be partly sunny and very mild again with a high of 78. That's your first alert forecast.
Thank you, Gary. If you still have sandbags around your property, city officials are urging you to leave them where they are for now. They say water levels are still high and they could stay that way for a while. When the city gives the all clear, don't throw away your sandbags. You're encouraged to hold on to them for winter and use the sand on the ice. Otherwise, you will have the opportunity to return them to the city. We've had a streak of nice weather, feeling like perfect summer days, but spending them at the beach is not an option.
All of our area beaches remain closed due to fear of potentially dangerous bacteria. Our Keely Arthur spoke with the Clean Lakes Alliance and shares why. Keely?
Well, historic rain has led to historic flooding and now a record number of beach closures. But experts say it doesn't always have to be this way.
When you have lakes this beautiful, this close, you use them.
I like to kayak and swim a lot. And I work at Jenny Street Market, and I used to go to B.B. Clark Beach and swim every day after work.
Now Anita Lawrence is brave for just putting a toe or two in.
Every beach in Dane County right now is closed by public health.
The historic rainfall and subsequent flooding pushed everything we don't want into the lakes.
You know, what happened was we had an awful lot of rain. It washed an awful lot of things into the lake, whether it was bacteria, whether it was a nutrient phosphorus to create cyanobacteria or blue-green algae blooms. But from all of that, really what's happened is we lost a month of summer.
So I don't want to hear anything about it. Nah.
Adam Satterston of Clean Lakes Alliance says we can do something to minimize the pollutants from dirtying our water.
It used to be get that stormwater off your property as fast as you can, to prevent any kind of flooding. Well, what happens is that's all just runs to the storm sewers, and in Madison, all our storm sewers run to the lakes. We need to change that. We need people to hold that stormwater on their property.
Fixes, he urges, don't have to be costly or time-consuming and will ensure your home doesn't suffer as a result.
Think about putting in a rain garden. Think about having a rain barrel. Anything you can do to slow that runoff a little bit and infiltrate it into your property before it reaches a lake.
So with a little bit of planning,
we need everybody to come together.
And maybe some mercy from Mother Nature, the tide will turn next summer.
Well, I'm about getting ready to go swimming. Don't tell anyone.
For the latest beach closures, we have a link on our website, channel3000.com.
Keely Arthur joining us in studio. Keely, thank you.
Water along the Rock River near Lake Koshkonong reached major flood stages today. County officials say that so far, however, there have been no calls of structural damage. More than 20,000 sandbags were used in preparation for flooding. The Rock River could return to normal levels as early as next week.
This summer's heavy rains have some people asking if we can bank on a snowy winter. Historic summer rains and flooding have some speculating a more severe winter season will visit the Madison area. However, meteorologists say there is no real connection between the summer and the winter months. The weather in the summertime is controlled by different phenomena compared to the weather in the fall.
The atmosphere has almost no memory at all. It's like a cat. And whatever happens this week is completely forgotten by next week.
Martin says we will most likely think this way because people have a sense that weather events average out in the long run. As far as the actual forecast right now, there's about a 70% chance of an El Nino developing during the winter months. That would typically make southern Wisconsin a little warmer, less snowy, but that forecast is not set in stone.
A judge has ordered former Wisconsin wide receiver Quintez Cephas to stand trial on charges that he sexually assaulted 2 drunk women this spring. The Dane County judge today rejected a motion from his attorneys to dismiss one of the charges. Cephas is facing 2nd and 3rd degree sexual assault charges, which are both felonies. According to a criminal complaint, Cephas sexually assaulted 2 drunk women at his apartment in April. Cephas has denied any wrongdoing and has been suspended indefinitely from the team. It has been 2 months since a devastating explosion shook the city of Sun Prairie.
Since then, with the help of surrounding communities, they've raised more than $500,000. The Disaster Relief Committee announced this morning where all that money is going. $220,000 will go toward residents and employees who were displaced from their homes or lost their place of employment during that explosion. $148,000 goes to the affected businesses and property owners downtown, and $141,000 goes to emergency first responders. Sun Prairie City Administrator says the amount raised is more than anyone expected.
This has taken weeks to get to this point of pretty intense effort and work. So I'm very proud of the city as an organization and the city government, but I'm also very proud of our community.
If you are a business owner or resident who has not yet heard from the city, they say sit tight. They are still working out some of the paperwork before they can cut checks and let everyone know directly if they were approved and how much money they will get to rebuild. Still to come tonight at 10, you only have a few more days to check out Bucky on Parade.
And learning more about a popular group of family-owned stores that's officially going out of business. We will soon say goodbye to World of Variety, a group of 4 family-owned stores in Fenimore, Cross Plains, Boscobel, and Mount Horeb.
Well, the stores sell a little bit of everything, and each store is having a sale this week with items up to 50% off. 2 other locations in Verona and Darlington closed 2 years ago. It is a bittersweet moment for the owners who plan to retire and spend more time with their 2 sons.
We've been thinking about it for a while. We closed 2 stores about 2 years ago, and that probably started to make it a little bit easier to think, well, if we close 2, we could someday close the other ones.
World of Variety has been in the Mudler family since 1973. The stores will close for good when all of the merchandise is sold.
It'll soon be even easier to get from Madison to Arizona. A second airline today announcing plans for a nonstop flight from Dane County Regional Airport to Phoenix. American Airlines will be adding the flight starting January 6th. Frontier Airlines announced last month it would be adding nonstop flights from Madison to Phoenix starting in November. Tickets are now on sale for both.
It has been quite a hit, but the Bucky on Parade public art event is coming to an end. Tomorrow, the final day to check them out. Starting Thursday, those statues will start to come down. 85 of them have been on display all over Madison and Dane County since the beginning of May. Many will be auctioned off at a Bucky on Parade finale party that'll be held September 29th at the Kohl Center.
Meteorologist Gary Knalty's here with a look at our forecast.
Just stays just nice here. I mean, exactly what we needed. You know, after all that rain, then we were hoping for a period of dry weather. Not only is it here, it's going to be extended perhaps a little bit while longer. Let's start out by taking a look to see just how nice the weather was. This is the time lapse from the WISC Skycam looking off toward the east early this morning. I didn't get any reports of people being able to see the northern lights here in the Madison area. About the farthest south, I saw reports is up through Black River Falls, but you can see just how clear the skies were today after sunrise. Hardly a cloud to be found, just a couple of cirrus clouds passing overhead, and even those were gone by the time we got close to sunset. Live view from the Edgewater Skycam in downtown Madison. Skies are clear, temperatures are comfortable. We start out this morning on the cool side, low temperature at 51, so a degree below the average low of 52, but our high temperature of 78 was 4 degrees above normal. And right now we're at 62 degrees, mostly clear skies. The air is calm. The dew point temperature at 56, and that's about how low I think the low temperature will get for tonight. Well, Hurricane Florence continues toward the U.S. Mainland. You can see the very distinct eye here. The storm packing winds right now of about 140 miles per hour. Upper level steering currents will take it near the Carolina coast, but notice as the upper level steering winds, as you get close to the coast, they start to diverge and move in different directions. That means the storm will kind of lose its way and just kind of sit and spin, bringing heavy amounts of rain as it pushes into the Carolinas. So even after the strong winds are gone, the heavy rain is going to become almost a bigger issue with inland flooding and coastal flooding because of high storm surge around the coast. But as Florence heads toward the coast, notice the area of high pressure that's formed out ahead of it, and that's right where we are. And it's just blocking weather systems. This cold front out to the west has a couple of showers, thunderstorms associated with it. This front will become stationary and just kind of wash out as this high pressure system actually pushes back toward the west over the next couple of days. So our winds will go from a southerly direction to a little more southeasterly direction. Temperatures right now very comfortable, 60s, a few 70s out to the west of us. Dew point temperatures are in the 50s here. They get into the low 60s out to the west of us. That just means early morning low temperatures be a couple degrees warmer. It's not going to be terribly humid, but as you look at future track, things just stay pretty much the same. You can see how the clouds stay to the north of us, our winds stay out of the south and southeast, and the air just stays dry, and we stay precipitation free through the weekend. For tonight, look for a low of 56 with mostly clear skies and pleasant conditions. For tomorrow, partly sunny, very mild, high temperature up at 78. On future track, you can see those temperatures dropping off into the middle 50s by early tomorrow morning with mostly clear skies. A few more clouds tomorrow. We'll call it partly sunny with a high temperature in the upper 70s. Tomorrow night, mostly clear, low temperatures in the middle 50s, and we'll call it partly sunny again for Thursday. High temperatures mid to upper 70s. As we take a look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, no rain in the forecast for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. High temperatures will be between about 80 and 82. As we get into Tuesday, that's the next chance for a shower or thunderstorm. And even that's kind of an iffy chance at this point. It'll be followed by a little cooler weather, but mainly dry weather for much of next week. Maybe a slight chance of a shower or thunderstorm by Friday.
All right, Gary, thank you.
You're welcome.
The Brewers try to pull into a tie for first place at Wrigley Field tonight. Game against the Cubs. We'll have the story next in sports.
If the Brewers won at Wrigley Field tonight against the Cubs, they'd be tied for first place in the National League Central, but it wasn't a great start for Milwaukee. Second inning, Ulyss Chastain. Pickoff throw goes to center field. That brings in the first run of the game. It's 1-0 Cubs. Then Victor Caratini hits one off the fist, but with the infield in, it ticks off the glove of Jonathan Schoop and in for a hit. An RBI hit at that. Brewers shut out for the 11th time this season. Final score, Cubs 3, Brewers nothing. The 19th and final meeting of the year between the Cubs and Brewers tomorrow night at Wrigley. Aaron Rodgers was on the Dan Le Batard ESPN radio show today. They kind of dawdled around before they finally asked Rodgers about his injury, and Rodgers responded, "I'm sure there are a lot of experts out there who are forecasting things, but we're going to take it one day at a time." So what if Rodgers couldn't play Sunday against the Vikings at Lambeau Field? Well, Deshaun Kaiser would be the Packers quarterback. That didn't work out very well against the Bears Sunday, did it? Kaiser reminded Packer fans what it's like when Rodgers can't play. Fans don't want that to happen again, but Kaiser says he's ready to go if Rodgers can't play.
No, you got to prepare as a starter every week. I think that we have a pretty good process that we were able to go through last week. We'll be able to adjust a couple things in terms of, spending some extra time understanding some 2-minute situations and things like that. But for the most part, I think we have a pretty good process for the backups, Tim and I, and I'll continue to stay on that same path and hopefully be just as prepared for next week.
The Badger football team should have a more competitive game at Camp Randall Saturday when BYU comes to town for a 2:30 p.m. kickoff. The Badgers have started their season with wins against Western Kentucky and New Mexico by a combined score of 79-17. But as the competition gets tougher, the Badgers know they'll have to sharpen their game, especially when the Big Ten season begins next week at Iowa.
Yeah, I think so. I think we have that feeling every week, but yeah, I think there is something where as the season goes on, the margin for error just gets smaller and smaller. So it's something we just got to keep working on. But I'm excited for this game. I think it'll be a really good game.
The U.S. men's national soccer team faces its longtime rivals from Mexico in a friendly at Nashville tonight. Mexico playing with 10 after a red card for the U.S. 19-year-old Tyler Adams scores his first international goal, and the final score is United States 1, Mexico 0. The Prep Mania High School football game of the week takes us back to Verona, where Sun Prairie and the Wildcats are only a game out of first behind Madison Memorial in the Big 8 Conference. It's a big game, and you can watch it live on TVW, live streamed on channel3000.com, 7 o'clock Friday night. And girls high school volleyball tonight, Reedsburg visits now 6th-ranked Waunakee. Waunakee won the match, but the big story tonight, it was a fundraiser to help victims of flooding in Reedsburg. And not only did they get a lot of donations, there was a big dinner for the Waunakee and Reedsburg teams after the match in the Commons. Nice job by everyone tonight in Waunakee. And we'll be right back.
Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti back. Final check of the forecast.
Well, while we watch Florence hit the East Coast, our weather stays very quiet. 78 for high tomorrow, 79 Thursday, 80 on Friday, 82 Saturday and Sunday. Lots of sunshine in there. Even Monday should be dry, 82. Shower or thunderstorm chance on Tuesday, then a little cooler after that. Maybe a thunderstorm chance toward Friday, but much of the time it'll be dry.
Thanks, Gary, and thank you for joining us for News 3 at 10.
Do something good. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.